If you're looking to build a home in North Central West Virginia, visit AskVisionHomes.com. Vision Homes, building you a house you're proud to call home. And don't forget to subscribe to the Ryan and Rush Show, but don't take our word for it. Take Coach Nealon's.
Hi, this is Coach Don Nealon, and you're watching the Ryan and Rush Show. Please subscribe.
And welcome you into another edition of the Ryan and Rush Show, your source for West Virginia Big 12 and college sports. We have a special episode today. Our good friend, recurring guest, and making his way back to Morgantown here tomorrow, Coach Josh Eilert. Coach, thank you for joining the show. How are you doing?
Doing well, doing really well. Just finished up practice and got an early one in the morning, and then we head out to good old beautiful West by God. So headed out to Morgantown, that cross country flight. Hopefully it's I get the jet stream and we can get there in 3 hours. That'd be nice.
Oh yeah, you got to fly into Clarksburg, then you got the 40-minute bus ride. Yeah, you're all familiar with that.
Well, you never did this when we traveled back in the day, but we're flying a 30-seater, so we're going right into Morgantown.
Okay, so yeah, because a 30-seater can because the runway's too short for anything below 30 seats, right? Or above 30 feet.
That's above my pay grade. I just know I know we're flying into Morgantown, and Arnold's picking us up. So
of course he is. There you go.
Your face to pick us up and welcome us to Morgantown.
It took him coming from a different team to finally fly into Morgantown, Ryan.
Exactly. And Arnold is the only bus driver in America that has a national championship rings via the Baylor women. Just ask him. So shout out to Arnold Edwards, good friend of the program. But Josh, let me ask you, I had this one circled when the schedule came out, Saturday, February 8th. And then, of course, like every conference play, it sneaks up on you. And I go, well, shit. I mean, it's already here. I look up, I go, Josh is coming to town this weekend. Fill us in how things have been in Utah the last, 5-6 months now.
It went fast. I mean, looking back at, I remember having a lot of conversations with Coach Craig Smith, over the course of like 5 weeks during the summer. And I felt like we were dating at one point. And so, it was a long, drawn-out process in terms of getting hired. But when he hired me, he expected me to be out there in 48 hours. So I turned around and jumped on a flight and headed out, I think it's June 6th. So it feels like last week, but it's been 6 months. So it's just been, hit the ground running and do everything you can to put a positive impact on the program and help transition into the Big 12 and be a competitive team in this conference, which, as well as I do, walking into a new conference, it can be a bear.
Speaking of the Big 12, Josh, you are Mr. Big 12 with obviously playing at Kansas State, working there for a little bit, of course, coming to West Virginia, and then now working for the Utah Utes. I don't know if it was intentional or by accident, but hey, you've gotten to know this conference very well from the round robin days to the 14 teams last year when you were head coach, and now the 16 team new Big 12. What have you thought of kind of the evolution of the Big 12, and then how do you use past experience, but also, hey, we need to kind of shift the way things are going. It's not the same to today's Big 12.
I talk a lot about it around here in our program. Even I can remember as being a kid, growing up in the Big 8. And I remember, in 1996 when I went from 8 to 12 and became the Big 12. So, I idolized this league and grew up, watching Steve Henson and Lon Kruger at Kansas State. And so it's in my blood, from day one, growing up. And it's changed and evolved. And I've been a part of, 3 different Big 12 programs now between Kansas State, West Virginia for 17 years and now Utah. So, it's pretty special to stay in a conference that long, and it means you're making some really good, deep connections with the people across the programs and across the league, and I think it's been an invaluable trait for our program for me to help transition into the league. Not to say it's easy by any means. I think Ryan, you were part of the program, and in 2012 when we transitioned to the Big 12, and I think we were a 13-19 team. And it was a rough year. It was a rough year trying to transition from the Big East to the Big 12, and this is big boy basketball and at its finest.
Absolutely. It's so physical, so well coached. I mean, you got Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer in this league. Josh, so let me ask you this. You played for Coach Woolridge, and then obviously you were with Hugs for 16, 17 years. Then you ran the West Virginia program in the interim year last year. What's it like been to go to a new situation away from the tree that you were with for 16, 17 years, get a new perspective after you were an interim head coach and just working for Hugs, and then now you're working for Craig Smith, a completely different guy that does things differently?
Last year, I mean, it was such a blessing to be able to be thrown into the fire and try to learn on the fly. It was challenging in every sense of the word, and I did everything I could for that program and representing West Virginia. But yeah, I mean, I look back at my career and I think, I kind of worked up the channel and played every facet of college athletics in terms of, graduate assistant, video coordinator, coordinator of operations, to interim assistant, to assistant AD for basketball operations, to assistant, and then to interim head coach. But that was all under the same, umbrella in terms of being under Coach Huggins and that staff that was very, we were pretty much set in stone there for a decade plus in terms of what our roles were. But and I think, that influence and Coach Huggins' influence will always be on me in terms of how he coaches. And I'll take a lot from what that influence has given me. But I think I kind of cheated myself not stepping outside the program earlier and being around some different coaches. And I think I've learned that this year, to where there's a lot of other ways to do things. And Coach Craig Smith has been incredible in terms of me, stepping into his program, and not only, me helping him transition to the Big 12, but, learning from how to do things in a, under a different umbrella. And that's been huge with my growth and development.
Not only were you a newer head coach last year, I mean, the year before you were a new assistant coach. So kind of really being on the upper end of the bench is still something that you're learning, I'm sure. And you kind of talk about, these different experiences and kind of settling in now to your job, especially with a team that's trying to settle in to a new conference. Specifically, some of those lessons that you've learned, what's one or two that really sticks out to you that really kind of either hit you, or you were just like, oh, I can take this moving forward and be a better coach because of it?
I think at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, in the coaching profession, and especially in today and age, how much turnover there is. If you don't have deep, meaningful and authentic relationships with the guys you're coaching, good luck. You have to have really good relationships off the floor, and they're still 18 to, sometimes 25-year-olds. I get it, but they're young kids trying to find their way. So we're trying to, develop young men into becoming better fathers and becoming better people, and learning life lessons each and every day. It's not just basketball. And once you figure that out and you connect on a deeper level, you're going to find it's a lot easier to coach them on the floor. And, you can get caught up in all the X's and O's and all the strategies and the things you can affect on the floor as a coach. But if you don't have those deep relationships, it's not going to work. So, that's probably the one thing I've learned over the course of my time. You spend a lot of time in other roles and support roles, but once you're in it and you're immersed in it, and you're asking guys to take their play to a different level each and every day, and you're really pushing on them, if you don't have that relationship and that deep, meaningful, authentic relationship, you're going to struggle.
Absolutely, Josh. So let me ask you about your current team, talking about relationships. So you guys are 11 games in, sitting here at 5-6 in the Big 12, 13-9 overall. You've been a part of teams at West Virginia where we've been absolutely unbelievable. Gone to the Sweet 16. It's been maybe we made it look a little bit too easy compared to how easy it's supposed to be. Also been on teams that have struggled. 2 years ago, started 0-5, battled back, get to the tournament. You guys started 0-3 this year in conference play, but you've come on strong. Won 2 out of 3, won 5 out of 8 now. What have you learned about your team 11 games into this familiar conference for you, but not for everybody else?
Well, I've taken some of those experiences and I've shared those with the team. I mean, I told them, straight up, we lost our first 2, 3, and I was quick to tell those guys, hey, we made an NCAA tournament when we were 7-11 in the conference, and we started 0-5 in the conference. And that's just, the strength and the respect that this league gets. And I told them there's no way we're starting 0-5. But, the way this conference works, some of the lower tiered teams that are predicted to be lower tiered are going to face a harder schedule to begin the year. I mean, we had to go to Baylor to start. We had to go to Houston. We had to go to Iowa State. So, that part of the schedule, and I think, between us and Central Florida, those first 6, 7 games, we had by far the hardest schedule to get out of the gate in the Big 12 play. So some of those hard games are out of the way. Not that any game is easy by any means, but you look at the schedule and you're like, okay, we got through that, and so we push forth and it's coach speak, but you just take it one day at a time and try to get better, and you dive into the process. You can't get too far ahead of yourself, and you try to figure out how you win that day.
We know West Virginia will always have a place in your heart. Of course, that's probably where you develop it is where you develop most as a coach, Josh. But of course, I'm sure when this schedule came out, you had this one circled. You want to go into Morgantown and win this game, of course.
Well, to be honest with you, I was hoping that wouldn't be on the schedule. I just see West Virginia and
Yeah, you didn't want to fly into that runaway that we were talking about earlier.
I think more than anything, I saw that and I don't know if it's a coincidence or not that we're playing home and away, but there's just so many emotions going into that game. I mean, my family and I put down, incredibly deep roots in West Virginia, and so many of our best relationships and deepest relationships are all, in the state of West Virginia. So, putting on a different color and walking into that building is going to be very emotional for me. I'm not gonna try to hide that. That's the reality of the situation. I spent 17 years there, and my wife and I were newly married when we moved there and had all 3 of our kids there. And so, I'm almost choking up right now thinking about it, and I got to go through that, and we'll figure that out as we go.
What do you think of this new look Mountaineers team with DeVries?
I got so much respect for him and what he's done. He probably got hired 7 months ago, and totally rebuilt that roster and a short amount of time, and wow, did he put a really good solid group together. So they're fun to watch. I always, whenever the Mountaineers are on, I tune them in and see what's going on, and I have just such a high respect for what he's done in a short amount of time. So they're gritty. They're a gritty bunch. I worry about the first thing that comes to mind is Sincere Harris, lighting us up in the full court and trying to put all that ball pressure on the Utes. So, they really got things going, and wow, is Javon Small good?
Yeah,
he is pretty damn good. Josh, I want to ask you, and I don't want to go down memory lane the entire, because I know you're worried about winning the game on Saturday, but you obviously had a unique run in Morgantown. You mentioned it. You wore every hat, including being the head coach of the Mountaineers last year. You grew up in Kansas. You beat Kansas. We rushed the floor. You've coached at your alma mater last year. Almost came back from 20 down. I mean, you've sat on every corner of the bench at the Octagon of Doom, as you always joke when we went there. What are just some of your favorite memories, wins that just come to mind just over the years, being with the Mountaineers for, what was it, 16 or 17 years? I lost
It was
track.
17. I mean, I had to do the math. I was using my fingers earlier.
Carry the
07, 08, 08, 09. It's 17 full seasons there. So, the first one that comes to mind is certainly Kansas last year, because being a head coach and going up against Bill Self and the storied Kansas program that I grew up a Kansas State fan and went to Kansas State. Everybody in my family went to Kansas State, and there's a lot of connections with that game, which my dad was deep purple and a Kansas State grad, and I lost him 7 years ago. And, that was Coaches versus Cancer Day.
Yep.
I was wearing that Coaches versus Cancer pin, and it meant a little more to me that day. And the fact that we beat Kansas on that day, and that's all I couldn't stop thinking about that. And there's other things, our record wasn't very good, but it went to 7-11 that night. My dad's birthday was 7-11. So there's so many of those connections, and he's such a big part of who I am. And so that'll be probably go down as like the most special win of my storied head coaching career there at West Virginia. But you go back, I mean, there's some really good ones over the years. Kentucky, and the Carrier Dome to go to the Final Four was an amazing game, and riding Joe Mazzulla and Deshaun Butler and that whole run. I mean, you could name 5-6 games in that year that was just so much fun to be a part of, and that group, that Final Four group, is so much fun.
Let me ask you, and this is a little more of a personal question, Josh, but I think it piggybacks off of kind of what Ryan was talking about. Is we have a couple things in common. We both have been residents of West Virginia, and we both have been residents of Utah. We did it the opposite way, though. I was born out there, ended up in West Virginia. You ended up in West Virginia, out in Utah. What was any cultural shocks there? Or were you settled in okay? How was that transition?
It's been good. I mean, you spend so much time. I've never lived anywhere for any given time that long a stretch as I did in West Virginia. So that really became home. I mean, Kansas is always my home, but for my kids all growing up there and spending their entire lives in West Virginia, that was home. So I'd be lying if I said it was an easy transition, just because you're giving up so many of those deep connections that you had and what you built over the years. But yeah, it's been good. It's a great place to live. I love it out here. The terrain, it's beautiful. The people are great. It'll take some time. It just doesn't happen overnight to where you're and totally 100% ingrained in the community. So the good people, amazing people, great scenery. Love living here, and we're locked in on the season right now, so I don't get much time to enjoy it.
Definitely going to be a little different turkey hunting out there when the season's over. Different terrain for turkey hunting. You might have to condition for that.
That's right.
Josh, another personal question here. People don't know the dark side of the coaching industry. Like they
don't want to know.
Yeah, you don't want to know.
Nobody wants to know how the sausage is made.
and everybody's a better coach from their damn couch with the cold beer in their hand. So
I see it on Twitter every day.
No doubt. But Josh, so you weren't in the spotlight for the first 16 years, and then last year you're in the spotlight. You lead the program, and then it's time to move on and move. Talk about how, going back to Morgantown, you mentioned it. You raised your family there. You bought a house there. You bought multiple houses there. Just talk about Brandy, Brendan, Emery, Teddy. Just how it's been on them moving, and then going back this weekend for your family, going back to a place where you got countless relationships and friends. I mean, we're still in group chats together with guys like Brian Messerly and Kyle Kiesler and guys still in the program. I can't even put my feet in your shoes going into this weekend.
Some of the greatest people in my life, so yeah, I mean, I got to try to, I'm not going to be there long. I'm going to be there about 20 hours, start to finish. And we got work to do. So I'd like to see each and every one of those people that mean so much to me and spend time with them. But that's just not the way it's probably going to work. But, I dropped my family off at the airport this morning, and they headed to Morgantown, and that's the first time they've really left, the area, the Salt Lake City area, since they moved here. So the smiles on their face, and to jump on that plane and head to see the people that mean so much to them, I couldn't wait to hear from them when they landed. So, and I haven't heard from them. You know, they've been here, they've been there in Morgantown the last 5-6 hours, and I think they're really, diving deep into catching up with some people, and that means a lot to me.
Obviously, last season was tough. You handled it with dignity and grace, absolute class act, and I think people kind of really woke up to what was going on, and I'm sure there was a lot more going behind the scenes than you care to even revisit or talk about, or even needs to be talked about. But let me ask you this, Josh. Now that time has passed a little bit, you're in a new position now. Do you have a message for Mountaineer Nation, or just something that you'd like them to know?
I don't know if they ever will know like how much I appreciated their support last year. You know, it was such a hard situation from start to finish, and the fact that they continue to support, and I see a lot of arenas, and I see a lot of empty arenas, but even last year, with as the odds were against us from day one, and day one was July, but they kept on showing up. And it blew my mind that we sold, 500 more season tickets than we did the previous year, over the course of the off season last year, going into that season. So the people of West Virginia are incredibly passionate about their sports and their program, and I think it even means more to them in terms of it's just not another guy running around, playing basketball. It's just a person to them. And it's a deeper connection there, and I'll never forget that, and how much that it really means to those people there.
Well, Josh, I wish you the best. I can't say I hope you win on Saturday, because the Mountaineers is still my alma mater, but I'm rooting for you every other game on the season. The only other one was when you guys were playing Radford. It was you versus Terrace. I was like, I don't know who I root for here. So
yeah, that was a great night. Well.
Yeah.
Of course, we got the victory, and I worry about every game, to be honest with you. But he came out to the house after, and we got 4 or 5 hours to catch up, and really, that's what it's all about. People around here, they didn't really. I told them, like, this is one of my best friends in the world, and I'm the scout coach on this situation, and heck, he even beat me last year, with that last second shot at the dagger after we missed 2 free throws to seal it at the free throw line. But it is what it is. That's how the coaching world works sometimes. But at the end of the day, it's all about relationships, and he's one of the best friends I have in the business, and the fact that we got to spend some time together here in Salt Lake and catch up, that meant the world to me as well.
Josh, I got to be honest, being raised a BYU fan, I never want you to win, but I am always cheering for you, and I want you personally to do well. So I always got your back. I don't have the.
Do you guys even stay up late enough to watch these games, or you just check the scores in the morning?
Well,
no,
you know me. I'm locked in on that. My other show doesn't go live till 1 a.m. I have not missed a Utes game all year. You guys keep me up. I enjoy watching you guys.
Josh, thank you so much for coming on. We love you. We appreciate you. We hope you have a good time in Morgantown. Soak it in. We hope you and your family enjoy it, and we hope to see you again on the program soon. We wish you the best, safe travels, and of course, let's go Mountaineers.
Let's go Utes.
Go Mountaineers. See you, Josh.